Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 7 of Word Talk. We have 3 people today. We have David Ray, Jimmy Ray, and Frankie Rendino. And we had a great idea that the Lord moved on David about. And at the same time, we had requests from the public that we didn't know both were going to have at the same time. We've been asked to talk about addiction. And we would love to talk about addiction because all 3 of us were bound in drugs and alcohol and a devilish mess. And all 3 of us were delivered through the blood of Jesus. So why don't you start us out, David?
Okay. I started partying probably at 14 as a kid, teenager, just kind of like hanging with the cool people, wanting to associate with people as a young person. I remember they told me it didn't kill brain cells. I actually fell for it, or I would have started. So getting high for me was an experiment as a teenager. It wasn't something I did to cope with life. I was a kid. I was just starting in life, so it wasn't like what I would say a crutch. For me, it was kids experimenting, getting high. So it was. So, you start out with, oh, it's cool to drink a little beer. Let's sneak some beer in the house. The parents are gone kind of thing. Like there was a party here, there's a party there. Then it would turn into cruising the back roads of Ohio, and getting, drinking, a lot of alcohol. Sure. And then there's pot is introduced. Someone's got a bag, someone wants to roll a joint for the first time, and to be cool, you're like, okay, because you don't want to say, oh no, I don't want to do that, because.
And they always say pot's not a gateway drug, but that's a lie from wherever.
And it is because alcohol was so easy accessible because even teenagers were stealing it at the grocery stores, put them in their coats and walking out. Pot was another thing. You had to know somebody who had it on them. You had to be at a party. Somebody pulled it out. So I'd be drinking. I'd be smoking. I tried pot. And then pretty soon here comes pills, something you might have been afraid of to try. Just you're taking a pill to what? Get high, not to help, not a pill for your headache. Now you want to get high off a pill. So it's by association. It is a gateway, just to be cool and to hang with people. That's what it is. So I found myself, it became a lifestyle for me to be high every day with the other kids. They'd say, you want to go cruising. Oh, we're getting a bag. We're getting some beer tonight. You know what I mean?
To the point where you're not cool if you don't do it.
And it got to where you was high all the time. And then when you weren't high, you didn't feel right being sober anymore. And that's where the slippery slope is now. Because it's like the addiction creeps up onto you. You don't think, oh, I'm going to be addicted, or you don't have any fear, or I'm going to get addicted to this because you don't know what it's like. You're just experimenting. You're just getting high. You're trying things. You're young in life. At least I was when I was introduced to it.
So you guys, they're brothers, very close in age. They were bound on drugs together, and then they got delivered together very closely, or the same day or whatever. Yeah. Not the same day, but very closely. So keep that in mind because this all happened to them basically together. I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah, so I tried to quit on my own because I couldn't function. It got to where I was high all the time, and I would try to apply for my first job, and I'd miss the interview because I got high instead and forgot about it.
Drinking, smoking pot, popping pills, drugs. Anything else?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to be weird, but we got to tell them.
No, because how low do you want to go? There was huffing involved. I was introduced to huffing, aerosols. And things like that. If people couldn't find things to get high on, they would get creative and drink cough syrup and things like that. And it just was
acid.
It was just doing acid, just all kinds of prescription pills and
Quaaludes.
Didn't you even wind up on meth too?
Yeah, crystal meth.
Yeah,
I was on crystal.
And going to concerts and partying and me thinking you were cool and
we took everything that was handed to us. Everything. We didn't even think about it. You had to be high with something.
Yeah.
And you're both, about how early, I'm not asking your age, how early did it start?
No, I was 14.
No, you were 14.
No,
okay.
I was
I didn't mean that. But
yeah, I'm 20 now.
The first time.
So, I'm just kidding.
You're 20. I'm 31. How'd you get 20? No.
Yeah.
So you're 14-ish when it started.
It was just a little
okay. Yeah. Which is really young. I mean, mine started right about 15 or 16 too. But Okay. So that sets the stage.
Yeah. Okay, Frankie, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, it started early on too. The messed up thing with me was I was raised at a church, very strict by my mom, and I was sheltered as shelter could be up until 7th grade. I got all straight A's at a private Christian school up till the end of my 6th grade year. 7th grade, I went to public school for the first time in my life. In the first 6 weeks, I got straight A's. And then from the rest of my life until I got expelled, I got all D's and F's. It was that quick. I mean, I fell off a cliff. And at 16, I was addicted to cocaine. Addicted to it. I missed my own grandfather's funeral because of it.
Yeah, I was doing coke too.
Drinking beer turned into drinking whiskey, and I thought it was cool to get so drunk you couldn't walk. And then when I got introduced to drugs, I mean, I was selling, remember Black Beauties, speed, whatever,
we
pills? I was selling it in high school. By the time I hit 9th grade, I was selling it to make money.
We were too.
Running around between the bells ringing, $2, whatever. Yeah. But I was just as bound as you guys. And nobody, it's a lie straight from hell if you think that one thing doesn't lead to another, because it does.
Was pot the first thing you did?
I think I got drunk first.
Yeah.
But the drinking and the pot kind of were hand in hand, and then that led to coke, and then that led to LSD. I got expelled from high school because I was selling LSD, and I was accidentally on LSD when they threw me out, and they didn't know it, but I was
besides alcohol, what I'm asking is, besides alcohol, I know alcohol is wicked and it's definitely
sure, I can't
devil,
stand it.
But not counting that as far as just the drug side.
Oh, by the way, today is St. Patrick's Day, and today is 28 years that I have not touched alcohol, and I could have never done it without the blood of Jesus. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but you're still recovering. You still crave it a little bit, don't you?
I don't crave I crave water, chocolate milk, iced tea.
Coming up.
Sorry, but I had to say that before I forgot, because it's literally 28 days today. Okay.
So what I'm getting at is, out of drugs, not counting alcohol, because probably we all tried alcohol first. I don't know, maybe not, but because that.
What if the drugs started first?
Yeah.
Pot,
yeah,
absolutely.
That's what I was going to say.
Sorry.
That's what it started. It almost always it does. Very few people are like, let's take pills to get high. It doesn't work like it. You have to desire to be high to make that transition usually.
Sure. You're not popping Valium at 14.
Dude, if Lucifer don't use marijuana to get people on drugs, then I don't know what does. Almost everybody I talk to, I'm sure there's exceptions, but almost everybody starts by smoking pot, man.
Sure.
Because, okay, I'll smoke something, but they certainly aren't going to say, I have a desire to shoot up, or I have a desire to take pills. No. But smoking, it doesn't seem quite as bad.
But no offense, but an alcoholic with 5 DUIs and cirrhosis of the liver didn't start off looking forward to that.
No.
They had a couple drinks. No. And a person with lung cancer didn't start smoking thinking, I'd love to get cancer. And I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just being dead serious.
No. Well, alcohol to me is kind of like pot in the sense of it doesn't seem as bad as the harder drugs. See what I'm getting at?
Yes, absolutely. He's 1,000% correct. And I believe alcohol is the worst drug we have in this country, in this world, because it's sold everywhere legally. Yeah. And now here comes pot. But anyhow, sorry.
Yeah. And, there's people that think it's okay, even Christians to drink. And we're going to tackle that bad boy first. But right now, eventually. But right now, let's talk about the addiction. Now, I didn't say this earlier, but I'm going to say it right now. Different people... Everybody starts partying. I'll just call it partying when you're doing drugs, drinking, whatever.
For a different reason.
I said, I was doing meth. I was doing coke, crystal tea. I don't even remember if crystal tea and meth's the same thing. It's been 44 years since I've done this stuff, you guys. So I got to look way back. But I was doing crystal tea, and I remember brown tea and meth and coke and acid and quaaludes and volumes and sleeping, everything, huffing too. But here's the thing. Different people get involved in it for different reasons. For me, maybe this is why you got involved. There was just something missing in my life. I needed some adventure. It just seemed like life was boring. Honestly, I remember wanting to do something exciting, wanting to do something cool, wanting to have a good time, and there was something missing there. That's what drew me.
Okay, this is a good point, and we need to all three say this, so finish. Yes. This is extremely important.
What drew me in there was like, oh, dude, this is exciting. This is something real. It's tangible. This isn't something that I'm just thinking up. Literally, when I drink this, when I smoke this, when I take this, something happens. There's a
different.
change.
Oh, I'm having fun, whatever.
And I've got initially, before the devil turns it around on you, it's fun, it's laughable, it's exciting, it's all a big laugh, and it appears to give you joy.
Are you saying that, like, there's actually pleasure in sin for a season?
Yes.
I think I read that in a book.
Pleasure, here's what the sinner doesn't understand, the partier. Because I was a sinner, partying and doing those things against God, and I didn't know it was against God. But what they don't understand is that stuff is shallow. There's no real peace or joy.
No, there's no lasting
at all.
Why is everybody depressed in rehab?
Counterfeit.
They're not running around rehab full of joy.
That's right.
No, I mean, I'm not trying to be
Later on,
funny.
They come to terms with that.
I can say that I was an addict.
Right. They come to terms with that later, but at first,
it's
the devil makes this like, ta-da, here's this present, you open
So
up.
you started doing all this stuff just because there was something amiss in your life and it looked fun and adventurous and all that stuff rolled in one.
I needed
It wasn't out of depression or anything like that.
For me, it wasn't. I was too young I'm not saying I was too young to be depressed, but back then when we grew up, there weren't many people battling depression as there is now.
Sure.
It was a different hour. There's more devils attacking
But this
people
is
now.
important for people to know.
Yeah.
So was it the same thing with you?
Yeah, like I said,
Adventure,
I
fun.
wasn't doing it for a crutch or to get happy. It was about association with other people. There were,
that's
it was like a peer.
Peer pressure
They talk about peer
too,
pressure.
right,
I'm
a
just
little
saying
bit.
by association. It was a cool crowd.
Well, your friends are doing
was,
it, right?
It was It was a cool crowd. If you wanted to belong with them, you had to go with the flow.
Yeah.
You know what I
Okay.
mean?
So-
to be cool. To be
And
cool.
I remember the
they were
first
the cool
time-
people.
Yeah.
You're right, and David's reminded me. Now, I
click.
didn't do it for the same
Yeah,
reason
click.
David
It's
did.
a form of a click.
I didn't do it for the same reasons David did, but I do remember distinctly the first time I was in a car with some guys that were older than me, and when you're 14 or 15 or whatever, and there's somebody in the car that's 2 years older to you, that's a lot when you're young. They're like grown up to you.
Oh, sure.
And they pulled out these doobies.
I hung out with a lot older people than you too.
They
Yeah.
pulled out doobies, and I was like, oh my word, oh my word. Oh
That's
my word.
marijuana.
Yeah.
If you don't
For
know
those
what
that
a
don't know.
doobie is.
Yeah. Or if you used to listen to the Doobie Brothers. Lord have mercy. But so they pulled him out, and instinctively I felt like, oh, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. This ain't right. And this drugs. I kind of knew that. So I think I even said no the first time. But then the devil wore me down, and I started doing it. But I honestly didn't do it because of the peer pressure. Like I said, I did it because the devil, you know what? Now that I look at it, this is interesting. I did it for the same reason that I got saved. The Lord, and it sounds like I'm jumping the gun for a minute, but I'm really not. When the Lord drew me in, he was like, I've got something. It's so cool. That's literally what the Lord did to me. He's like, I got life. You think you have life? Try this. That's what God did to me.
Sure.
That's how I got
And
saved.
in a way, that's what a lot of
That's
people
exactly what
see
the
when they
devil
see the
did.
drugs and alcohol
Right.
at a young
Yes,
age.
he had-
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
gave
you
you
know
what he
what?
had to offer.
But you
Yeah.
accidentally see that, especially younger.
And you know why that happens? There's a battle going on for your soul.
Sure.
The devil and God are battling out, and both of them are offering you life. But the devil's life turns on you. It's empty. There's no peace in it. There's no joy in it. And we'll get more into that
Sure.
as this gets ugly.
But both of yours are kind of close, but not the.
Not really. Not really. They're totally different. David did it more for peer pressure, right, David? And more for trying to fit in. It's not like you was thinking, this is going to be one.
No, I never really got high on my own. I tripped
Right.
on my own.
And to
Okay,
tell you
but
the
you
truth-
did it
Not
more
from the
out of
start.
adventure
Not
and
from
like
the
bright
start. I
eyed.
would have been afraid to do
And to
that.
tell you the truth, I
Okay.
can look back and I can tell
I'm
you
glad
right
I keep
now,
asking. I mean,
and I can tell you something right now. The devil used me to talk David into it.
Yeah.
I'll guarantee
Okay.
you.
Yeah, he did.
I guarantee you. I was an older brother, 2 years older than him, and I
They
just
told me
wasn't
he
going
didn't
to
kill
take
brain
no.
cells.
I wasn't going to take no for an answer because those devils were using me now.
sure, my cousin and I did the same thing to each other.
Yeah, yeah.
But so the reason I asked all this specific is let's go a different route for 1 second. So I was raised from a very young age, very strictly at church. And I'm not here to bash my mom. God rest her soul. I love the woman. But make no mistake about it, I was forced to go to church and I was forced to do these things when I was 6, 7, 8, 9. I mean, forced. I can't stress that enough. I was forced. And you cannot force God on someone. God wants to love you and you to love him back. I don't care if you're 3 or you're 30 or you're 90. It's got to be by choice. That's why he gave us free choice. So at the end of my 6th grade year, I ran away from home from my mom and went to my grandparents. And it was like you took a Tasmanian devil and wound it up like a little toy, just let it go. From straight A's to all D's and F's. I was getting drunk in 9th grade, and my teacher in homeroom took me out in the hall and go, "What's wrong with you?" I mean, I changed so drastically, and I did it all because I was running from God. It wasn't peer pressure, and it wasn't just because I thought it was exciting. I had no idea who my dad was. In my mind, I thought my mom was nuts and didn't love me, and it just snowballed. And I did it a lot out of, I don't know if you'd say depression, but I just couldn't stand my life. And I knew I ran from God at a young age. I knew I did. Kind of did it almost like shoving it back in God's face. Like, look, I can tell you when I was hurt, that's why I started getting high and doing drugs.
You had more of a sincere heart than me.
But I had a different, not a different upbringing. You were brought up with God too.
Yeah, we were. I mean, my mom, I can say this now, she's in heaven. It won't embarrass her because she's in heaven. She definitely made it to heaven. But she was in and out with God. And she was a follower.
But is it safe to say that your mother helped love God into your lives?
To me, absolutely.
Yeah, those seeds
she
were planted.
pointed the way, very successful.
But with love.
Yeah, with love.
Those seeds were planted.
Yeah.
Okay, my seeds were like when you make your kid take soap when he cusses.
Well,
I mean, it was forced into
We had
me.
that too.
We had that too, but I'm thankful for all
that's just
that.
being raised right.
You just had more of a spirit of rebellion.
No, there was just there was no love. There was
Well,
no
that's
love.
true too.
No
It has
love.
to be done in love. Like we were, at times Uncle Kerr forced us to go to church. Members, I never resented him for that though, because I honestly knew he was doing it.
Let me be honest for their sake. I grew up with a ton of abuse. I'm not going to get into it, but I mean abuse.
You're right. You need to tell that.
Physical, spiritual, and some other stuff, and you can get my point, but it was abuse. Abuse to where, like, children's services got called more than I can count.
Right.
And when you go through that as a young kid, you're a lot more liable to start taking drugs or do whatever you can to escape that.
And also, you knew.
And then I knew it was wrong with God, or that was wrong to do to God. And being a Christian, you can't live like that. I knew that on top of it.
See, and also, Frankie, because, and I can say this because it's just common sense, because she treated you like that, which means she didn't have the type of love for you that she should have, or she wouldn't have been abusing you. When they tried to get you to go to church and stuff, there was no love.
That's what I was trying to get to, but I forgot to bring
with that.
Yeah, and I forgot to bring.
So it hit you different than it did us. When we went to church sometimes, very, very, very little, but we went to church sometimes. But I honestly can say I was not running for God.
From
Did I say whatever?
No, whatever.
But
sorry,
I wasn't running from God. I was running toward God. I honestly was. And I just didn't know it. You knew, like, okay, this isn't right. I shouldn't be doing it. I was dumb to stuff like that. I mean, I knew you shouldn't be doing that. I wasn't totally naive.
But you were searching for something to fill the hole, and you hadn't found God yet to fill it. Yes,
man, real hard. And if somebody would have been full of the Holy Ghost and had power over devils, they probably could have led me to the Lord.
Same thing with you?
Yeah. The examples of Jesus were, kind of without power in a way, and that would have made a difference for me. Now that I know the truth as an adult, there was something that could have been done as a child that wasn't. Certain things that need to be said to a child, that the Lord would say. The Lord would say to a child, In hindsight, I could say that now because everything that we've learned after the fact, the truth of what could have made an influence on our life. We look back at things like that.
Sure.
And to prove that what I'm saying is true, for David and me, the moment we was offered the real Jesus, we snatched it up.
Okay, so to this point, we all started for different reasons.
Yeah.
But let's fast forward. We're all barreling down at mid-teenage years. Bound. Mm-hmm. I was drinking, drugging, so were you guys, and we were basically doing all the same thing, everything you can imagine.
And let me stop for just a second.
Like normal 17-year-olds aren't on meth or 19, they're not. No. They're not on all those drugs. So we were all on them.
And our parents obviously failed somewhat, because we shouldn't. I'll tell you what, my daughter never got into anything like that. If she did, boy, I'd have caught her. But anyways, that's besides the point. But there's something I want to bring up too that is very, very important for people that are young and haven't really got into drug addiction yet. The crowd we hung with, dude.
Oh, it makes a big difference. Yeah.
If I wouldn't have been around, I'll tell you right now, we started playing music at an early age. We guess around the age of 7. I don't know. We've tried to figure it out. It was very, very little when I started playing guitar. Think about 7.
They're very talented musicians, very talented.
I don't know about all that, but we give God all the praise and all the glory for whatever we can do. But I'll tell you this. We went into the rock and roll scene, and I'm telling you, rock and roll. Haven't you ever heard rock and roll, sex, drugs,
rock and roll? Yeah, sure.
That's a true statement. They're all bundled together in an Easter basket.
They don't say Jesus, humility, and rock and roll.
Right.
Oh,
right.
Sorry.
Kindness and rock and roll.
Yeah.
No, rock and roll is known for a spirit of rebellion. And who does that come from? Lucifer.
Sure, that's how I got kicked out.
Yeah, so rock and roll and hanging around like-minded people like that absolutely led me down the trail. If I'd have been hanging around children of God or even people that were more moral than me, chances are, I can't say I wouldn't have went into it, but it wouldn't have happened as easily.
Yeah, sure. Now, you both said that, or you just said a second ago, like your parents, in a little bit of a way, failed, but they loved you and they were trying, but they did slightly.
The reason why I'm saying they failed is we were at 14, 15, 16
You should have been doing what you were doing.
We shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
No, look, we were bound. It was obvious.
Sure.
As a young teenager,
but also wasn't your mama
TV?
But she was a single mom, right?
She was a single mom, but that's no excuse.
No, I'm not making an excuse.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, at the age of like 16 or something, I was so bound. I was already breaking in houses. Stole my own mom's TV that I loved with all my heart, but I was bound by that point. Sold it to get crystal meth.
I robbed my grandma's pizza shop at 16.
My mom should have beat me a long time before that.
Sure, no, I agree.
My mom should have said, I smell something, and mom actually finally figured out we were smoking pot and stuff like that. I think the devil even tried to get her to do it, right? If I remember.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, I remember stuff.
All right, but my point is, if she'd have been close to God, and she's in heaven now, so she made it. I can criticize her all she wants. She made it. Hallelujah. But I'll tell you what, if that was me and I was living for God and my child did that, it'd have been time to go on a long fast.
Sure.
And I'd have cried to my kid and said, you're going to die and go to hell. The devils are taking you over. And if you're going to give over to the devil like that, you're going to have to pray about living here. I'd have cracked the whip.
But it's important that they know the circumstances that drove us into
it. That's why we're explaining this.
So I ran away from my parents, and I went to my grandparents. My mom, I should say. My dad, I never had a dad my whole life. But when you go to your grandparents, they raised their 3 kids. By the time I went there, they're probably in their mid-50s or something like that. I got away with bloody murder times
with your grandparents
times a million. Yeah,
seems like everybody gets.
What was you going to say? I lived with them. That's how
we were a product of a divorcement. Our parents were divorced at a young age, and we took advantage of the situation. And so did Lucifer. Is what's happened.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but I won't use that as an example to use an excuse.
No.
Because here's the thing: is we partied with people that had. A mother and a father, well-educated, wealthy,
we
lived in big homes. They weren't living in, poor areas and just barely scraping by and fell into drugs.
Yeah,
you can't paint these scenarios because Lucifer's not a respecter of persons either. You know what I mean?
No,
and so we knew people that had, outstanding parents, wealthy parents, and they were dealing, and their parents didn't know.
So now let's move forward to...
Yeah, so we're all barreling out of control, full of the devil, full of every drug you can think of. For what it doesn't matter, we got to the point that we're all on it now.
Yeah, and I want to say how bound I was at this point, because that's where we're at now. I got to the place where it snuck up on me. I was so bound, I had to be high every moment, if I could, every second. And if I didn't have something to get high on, whether it was gasoline, huffing gasoline, or I'd take any type of pill and take a large amount to get high, whatever, I could not rest. I would have to go search. Back then, we didn't have phones.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't have things like that. You got on foot. We didn't have cars. We were young. And we took off looking for people that had something. But the point I'm bringing out is I was so bound then that I could not be high. There was no choice. And when you get to that point, and you all can probably agree, I know all drug addicts and alcoholics can agree, you come to the point where you're like, dude, this is no longer cool.
It's no longer fun. What happened? The blinders fall off.
And look, it's messing me up physically.
Sure.
Mentally, it's messing me up. It's messing up. And you need to know that, you young people, too. If you're thinking about going on drugs and alcohol, get ready for your life to be ruined. There's no other way around it. If you're going to step into that world.
Did you guys go to jail when you were young?
No, thank God.
Arrested?
I did.
How long?
Yeah.
I mean, just top of your head.
I'm laughing.
I got arrested for smoking pot outside. Got picked up.
We were dealers now. We were small-time dealers to where we would buy a quantity and then break it down to the little guys. So I almost got busted many times. I mean, I'd be at a party and they'd say, cops! We'd have to take off running for dear life, and sheriffs and running, and we'd be at the park.
But it got to a point where it took over your life 1,000%, and you couldn't stop at all.
No, but you wanted to, and you would try, and you couldn't.
Sure. So you say something about on that. I want us all three to go as we go. So he's up to his boundness. Tell us about
how bound I was. And I had to be having every second.
Yeah, there was no moderation. It just kept getting more and more and more, and all the time. Every day it became a lifestyle. Getting high became a lifestyle.
It did.
Did it get?
And like I said, you didn't feel comfortable when you're sober anymore. Because you were high all the time.
And then at a certain point, you didn't feel you weren't comfortable high either, though, when the blinders fell off, right?
And the wheels were falling off.
Misery.
The wheels were falling off to where every time I got high, it just kind of was destroying my mind where I couldn't even function. Like I said, I couldn't go for a first interview because I got high and forgot about it.
And then you start ODing. That's not a cool thing.
Yeah, it's Russian roulette. I mean, you don't know if you're going to OD, and people are pushing more, and the drugs keep coming, and you just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper.
And you're almost dying for other reasons. It could be fights. It could be wrecking cars or whatever.
Sure, and then the drugs, we didn't even think that all this stuff that we were abusing put you in really bad situations with really bad people, no matter what your age is. Yeah,
right. And
that's the thing.
You could be with somebody that's tripping, and they could kill you and not even know they're doing it. They think that they're out deer hunting. And you guys might think that's just far-fetched. It's not.
No, it's not.
I mean, when people are on drugs, that you can jump off a building and think you can fly. And I mean, it is a dangerous world. And
what were you going to say?
I tried to quit on my own. I remember trying. My life was to the point where I couldn't function no more, right? So I kept finding myself in a position of quitting over and over and over, And I remember we'd go cruising, in someone's car on, country roads, and everybody be partying. And because of our upbringing, I knew I was lost and didn't have Jesus.
No, we knew that.
I wasn't serving God. So every time we went out cruising, no matter how high I got, I had to watch the road from the back seat, because I was afraid if we got in a wreck, I would die and go to hell.
Yeah.
So the whole time I'm in fear.
Yeah,
trying to get high. Here I am. We're trying to party, get high, which is supposed to be, mood altering, where something you enjoy.
And I'm supposed to be happy. What's going on?
But I have this fear that I have to literally watch the road, and keep my eyes open, and be sober, because if we get in a wreck, I have to see it coming.
Sure. So let me catch up to you guys now. Just a couple of real quick things. I got so bad so quick that I kept getting arrested. I had, I think 9 felonies before I turned 18.
Wow.
Now, they were before I was 18, so they didn't carry over.
We were also in a small city.
Yeah.
I lived
in the Akron area, in Norton and Barberton, but I had the better part of 10 felonies. I got in so much trouble, I couldn't get my driver's license at 16. I had to wait till I was 18. And then I went to the DH so much, the juvenile jail. I got sent to juvenile prison. I was supposed to do 2 years, and I got let out, I think, a year.